Ready for a deep dive. We're going to be looking at some influential chefs today.
Yeah, some real culinary giants.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just like who's on TV or who's got the biggest, brand. It's really about like who is changing the way that people think about food and cook.
Exactly. It's about innovation,
Yeah,
it's about skill, and really their impact on global cuisine.
right. And so we've got this list of 10 chefs that we're going to go through. And by the end of this deep dive, you'll not only know like who these culinary rock stars are, but you'll also understand what makes them so special and why their influence matters in the food world.
What's
So,
up?
yeah, let's jump right in. Let's start with a chef whose personality is probably as famous as his food, Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, yeah.
So he's got the Michelin stars, he's got the TV shows, the whole media empire. But does that actually translate to real influence on how we eat?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, his impact is really interesting because he kind of bridges the gap between that, like, really elite culinary world
Mhm.
and, like, mainstream audiences.
Right.
It kind of makes fine dining concepts a little less scary and more accessible.
Yeah.
And that definitely influences home cooks and aspiring chefs, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's funny though, I wonder if some people would say like his TV persona kind of overshadows his actual contributions to like, cooking. Is it really more about entertainment or is there substance behind all of that spectacle?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, his media presence is huge, but his commitment to those, like, classical French techniques and that super rigorous kitchen standard
Oh yeah.
that
Yep.
shapes so many chefs, he's really raised the bar in professional kitchens for precision and execution.
Right. So there's more to him than meets the eye, I guess.
All right, well, let's shift gears completely now. Let's think Scandinavia foraging and this restaurant that's always ranked as one of the best in the world, Noma Rene Redzepi's restaurant in Copenhagen.
Oh yeah, Red Zeppy, he's not just about like pretty plates. He's really brought back all these forgotten Nordic ingredients and techniques.
Oh, wow. Like, he uses things like reindeer moss and fermented berries. It's like hyper-local approach.
Yeah.
And that's really inspired this global movement toward, like, regional seasonal cuisine.
So he's kind of like a culinary archaeologist in a way, like unearthing all these hidden flavors.
Yeah.
That's really cool. It makes me wonder though, could this hyper-local approach work everywhere? I mean,
Yeah.
what happens if you're in a region that doesn't have like such a unique, terroir?
Well, yeah, that's the challenge, right? That Redzepi's followers are working on right now. It's about kind of taking that philosophy and adapting it to different environments, finding those hidden gems in each region's own culinary history.
Yeah, like a global treasure hunt for unique flavors. I love that. Okay, let's head to Italy now, where Massimo Bottura is really turning tradition on its head. When we think Italian food, we think pizza pasta, but Bottura is doing something totally different.
He is. He's avant-garde.
Yeah.
He's really pushing the boundaries of what we think of as Italian food. He's taking all those familiar flavors and, like, reinterpreting them in this really modern, artistic way. Like, have you ever heard of his dish, 5 Ages of Parmigiano Reggiano?
No.
It's like a deconstruction of this classic ingredient, showcasing its evolution through different textures and temperatures.
So it's still rooted in tradition, but with a little, like, twist of surprise, I guess. Do you think, though, that some people will be like, whoa, this is a little too out there for me?
Maybe some traditionalists would be hesitant, I guess.
Yeah.
But Batura is really great at making the unfamiliar feel both exciting and comforting. He's redefining what Italian food can be without, like, losing its heart, its soul.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, speaking of pushing boundaries, our next chef basically turned cooking into a science experiment. Ferran Adria, the mastermind behind El Bulli in Spain. Have you ever had a chance to eat there?
I wish I did before it closed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. I've heard about this molecular gastronomy thing, but what is that exactly?
It's really cool. You're talking about foams and spheres and gels.
Uh-huh.
Adria was really a pioneer with molecular gastronomy.
Yeah.
He used, like, scientific principles to transform ingredients and create these totally new textures and presentations.
Oh, wow.
Like, picture an olive that bursts in your mouth like a flavor bomb.
Really?
Yeah, that's the kind of crazy stuff he was doing.
That's wild. It sounds a little like Willy Wonka for foodies. I don't know. Is there a risk, though, that it becomes more about the showmanship than the actual taste of the food?
Yeah, that was definitely a critique of molecular gastronomy early on.
Yeah.
And yeah, some chefs definitely got carried away with all the theatrics. But at its heart, it's about expanding what's possible in cooking and creating really unique sensory experiences.
Right.
And what Adria really did was he encouraged chefs to think outside the box.
Yeah, so he opened up this whole new world of culinary exploration, I guess.
Okay, let's go to France now, land of Michelin stars and culinary royalty.
Mm-hmm.
Alain Ducasse That name just like screams luxurious dining.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Ducasse is like the epitome of classic French cuisine.
Hmm. He's known for impeccable technique, sourcing the absolute finest ingredients, and
Right.
creating this unparalleled dining experience. He's earned something like 20 Michelin stars across his restaurants.
Wow, it's
Yeah,
insane.
that's a testament to his pursuit of excellence for sure. Okay, so he's like the gold standard in a way.
Hmm.
But that many Michelin stars, like, does that ever get to him? Does the pressure of maintaining that level ever, like, stifle his creativity, or is it more like a motivating force?
I mean, that's the question, isn't it? It's like a double-edged sword, I guess.
Yeah.
On the one hand, the pursuit of perfection can really drive innovation, but it also requires like unwavering dedication and a certain level of intensity.
Speaking of intensity, let's talk about another master of precision, Thomas Keller, the chef behind the French Laundry. And per se,
Mm.
he's got a reputation for being a bit of a perfectionist.
Yeah, he does. His kitchens are known for their insane attention to detail.
Well,
He's all about this sense of urgency philosophy.
oh, really?
Yeah, which basically emphasizes efficiency and seamless execution.
And his influence on fine dining in America is massive.
Oh.
He's also really cool because he makes those techniques a little more accessible to home cooks through his cookbooks, which are super detailed.
Yeah, so he's sharing the secrets, I guess. But do you think that that level of precision is even achievable for like the average home cook? Or is it more about like inspiring us to try to do our best?
Yeah, I think it's more aspirational. I mean, Keller set such a high bar, but his message is more about approaching cooking with intention and really understanding how important every step is in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, from meticulous techniques to plant-based innovation, our next chef is definitely shaking things up. Daniel Hum of 11 Madison Park in New York.
Oh, yeah.
Why did he decide to go fully plant-based?
It's a big statement.
Yeah,
He's showing that fine dining can be both luxurious and ethical.
right.
He took all animal products off the menu and kept his 3 Michelin stars. It's really sparked this conversation about the future of sustainable fine dining.
That's a bold move. Some might say that fine dining, relies on those luxury ingredients like foie gras or caviar.
Right.
Can a plant-based menu really compete at that level?
That's the challenge he's taken on, and it's totally pushing the boundaries of what we consider fine dining. He's showing that plant-based food can be just as complex and nuanced and satisfying.
So he's redefining luxury. This is fascinating. We've gone from like classic French to avant-garde Italian to like completely plant-based, and we're just getting started. It seems like all these chefs, even though they have such different styles, they all have this deep respect for ingredients.
Oh, definitely. Whether it's sourcing the absolute best stuff or mastering a technique, there's this real reverence for quality.
Mhm. Yeah, and that respect kind of extends to the whole food chain. We were talking about Red Zeppi's hyper-local approach and Hum's plant-based commitment. Are these chefs like leading a bigger movement towards sustainability in the fine dining world?
Oh, for sure. I think there's this growing awareness that culinary excellence goes hand in hand with responsibility. It's not just what's on the plate anymore. It's about the impact of those choices on the environment and the people producing the food.
So diners are becoming more discerning too.
Definitely.
It's not just about taste, it's about values.
Yeah, people want to know where their food's coming from, how it was grown or raised, and how it affects the planet.
Okay, speaking of impact, let's talk about a chef who takes this multi-sensory approach to dining. Heston Blumenthal, the fat duck in England.
Oh, Blumenthal.
Yeah, his dishes are like edible theater.
They really are. He's all about this immersive experience that goes beyond taste.
Wow.
He uses sound, aroma, even visual illusions to like evoke emotions and tell stories through his food.
Really?
Yeah, imagine a dish that's inspired by a trip to the seaside, complete with sounds of waves and like edible sand.
What's funny is that I tried to recreate his Sound of the Sea dish at home.
Oh, yeah.
The visual part was easy, but the edible sand was a total disaster.
Yeah, that's hard to pull off at home.
Yeah.
But I think the point is that Blumenthal's really pushing the limits of what a dining experience can be,
All right.
engaging all the senses in this fun, thought-provoking way.
Yeah, for sure. From playful to poetic, our next chef, Dominique Crenn, brings this really personal touch to her cooking. What makes her stand out in the fine dining world?
Kren is a true artist. I mean, her dishes are just visually stunning, and they're often inspired by her own life experiences,
Oh, wow.
like her childhood in Brittany, her travels, her relationships.
Huh.
She's creating like an edible autobiography, using food as her medium for self-expression.
Wow, that sounds so intimate. Almost like you're getting a glimpse into her soul when you eat her food.
Yeah, that's exactly the power of her cuisine.
Yeah.
It goes way beyond just feeding the body.
Yeah.
It nourishes the mind and the spirit.
Right.
It's about connecting with diners on this really emotional level.
Okay. From personal narratives to a deep connection with tradition, our final chef takes us to Japan. Yoshihiro Murata, a master of kaiseki cuisine. I'll be honest, I'm not super familiar with kaiseki. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, kaiseki is this super refined, multi-course dining experience that really showcases the essence of Japanese culinary art.
Okay.
It emphasizes seasonality, local ingredients,
Hmm.
really meticulous presentation, and just this deep respect for the natural world.
Okay.
And Murata is a true master of this. His restaurant Kikunoi in Kyoto is like a pilgrimage site for food lovers who want that authentic kaiseki experience.
So it's about way more than just the food. It's like a whole philosophy.
Exactly. It's this really holistic approach that considers like the harmony of flavors, textures, colors, even the setting itself.
Wow.
It's supposed to be a really meditative and moving experience.
We've covered a lot of ground here, from Gordon Ramsay's fiery kitchens to Dominique Cren's poetic plates to the zen-like precision of Yoshihiro Murata. It seems like these culinary giants have so little in common.
True, their styles are all over the place, but they do share a few key things. They're all super passionate about what they do, they're all dedicated to pushing boundaries, and they're all deeply respectful of ingredients and tradition.
And they all seem to understand that food is more than just fuel.
Yeah.
It's an experience, it's a story, it's a way to connect with the world around us.
Exactly, and I think that's what makes them so fascinating. They're not just chefs. They're artists and storytellers and innovators who are changing how we think about food.
Speaking of changing the way we think about food, we've mentioned Michelin stars a few times, and it's considered the gold standard in the culinary world. What does it actually mean to earn a Michelin star?
Well, the Michelin star system is this restaurant rating system that's been around for over a century. It started in France.
Mm-hmm.
1 star means it's a really good restaurant in its category.
Right.
2 stars means the cooking is excellent and worth a detour. And the big one, 3 stars, means it's exceptional cuisine worth a special journey.
So like the Olympics of the culinary world?
Exactly. It's a huge honor for chefs, and it helps diners find restaurants that offer like a truly exceptional dining experience.
Right.
But it has been criticized for being too Eurocentric and focused on a very specific style of fine dining.
Right. So not a perfect system, but it still carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Does it influence what chefs create or how they run their kitchens?
I mean, the pursuit of those stars can definitely drive innovation and push chefs to really strive for excellence.
Yeah.
But it can also create a lot of pressure and lead to this focus on perfectionism that's not really sustainable in the long run.
It's a tough balance for sure. It seems like the culinary world is always evolving. We've seen
Right.
chefs embracing sustainability, pushing boundaries, and challenging traditional ideas of what fine dining is. What do you think the future holds for food?
That's a great question. I think we're going to continue to see a focus on sustainability and ethical sourcing and a deeper connection between food and the environment.
Yeah, what about technology? Are we all going to be eating 3D printed steaks and AI-generated recipes in the future?
I think technology is definitely going to play a role, but I don't think it'll ever replace the human touch, the creativity and passion that makes great cooking.
Right.
It's more about using technology to enhance those things, to explore new possibilities while still staying true to what makes food so special.
Speaking of special, we've talked about chefs who are pushing boundaries with their techniques and presentations, but what about the stories behind the ingredients themselves? Do you think people are more interested in where their food comes from these days?
Oh, absolutely. There's this big movement towards transparency and traceability in the food industry. People want to know the stories behind their food, like the farmers who grew it, the journey it took to get to their plate.
So like each ingredient has its own little history.
Yeah, and by understanding that history, we can appreciate the food on a whole other level.
Right. It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of everything, from the soil to the seed to the chef to the diner.
Totally. Food is a powerful way to connect with the world around us.
Yeah, it really does elevate the whole experience when you think about all that.
It does. And that connection goes even deeper than just the ingredients themselves. Like, think about the stories that are embedded in different cuisines.
Oh,
A
yeah.
bowl of Vietnamese pho that tells a story of French colonialism and local adaptation. Spanish tapas, that speaks to a culture of sharing and being together.
Yeah, food's like a window into different worlds, different ways of life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And exploring those different worlds through food can really broaden our perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Help us appreciate all the richness and diversity out there.
Okay, so I have to ask from your perspective as an expert, what are some of the most exciting trends or innovations you see happening in food right now?
Well, I mean, like we've talked about, sustainability is huge.
Yeah,
Chefs are finding new ways to reduce waste, conserve energy, source ingredients responsibly. Some restaurants are even putting urban farms and rooftop gardens right into their design.
that's so cool. So the restaurant becomes part of the ecosystem. What about the rise of plant-based cuisine? Is that just a fad or is it here to stay?
I think it's more than a fad. I think it shows this growing awareness of how our food choices impact the environment and ethical issues.
Right.
And chefs are proving that plant-based food can be just as creative and delicious as any other menu.
Yeah.
They're coming up with these new techniques to recreate the textures and flavors of meat and dairy, all with plants.
So it's not just tofu and tempeh anymore.
No way.
Yeah.
We're talking gourmet, Michelin star-worthy, plant-based experiences.
Wow. And we can't forget about technology. How is that shaping the future of food?
Oh yeah, technology is playing a big role. We're seeing 3D food printing to create these super intricate dishes.
Oh, wow.
Chefs are using fermentation and molecular gastronomy to come up with totally new textures and flavors.
Really?
Yeah, and they're even using AI to come up with new recipes and make food production more efficient.
Wow. It sounds like the future of food is going to be pretty wild.
Yeah, it is.
But with all this innovation, is there a risk that we might lose sight of the simple pleasures of food?
That's a good point.
Hmm.
It's important to remember that food isn't just about sustenance or being cutting edge.
Right.
It's about connecting with people, experiencing pleasure, sharing those experiences with others.
Yeah, sometimes the most memorable meals are the simplest ones, like a home-cooked dinner with family or a perfect piece of fruit.
Exactly. Those simple things are at the heart of what makes food special. And I think the best chefs get that. They use their skills and creativity to make those experiences even better, not to take away from them.
We've covered so much in this deep dive, from the personalities and philosophies of these chefs to the bigger trends and challenges in the culinary world. I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for the art of cooking and how food can bring us all together.
I'm glad to hear that. And I hope everyone listening feels inspired to explore the world of food with more curiosity, more mindfulness, and a big appetite.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with this thought. The next time you sit down to eat, take a moment to think about the journey your food took to get to your plate. Think about the farmers who grew it, the people who prepared it, the stories it carries, and most importantly, savor every bite.
Happy eating, everyone.
Until next time.